Minister, last year we all accepted that Brexit was the main immediate threat to the economy. This year, however, we still face Brexit, but now we have the coronavirus. Indeed, we are still unclear what the outcome of Brexit will be, even with an agreement, trade deals and such. It is still the case that the UK is leaving EU whether we like it or not. This will most certainly bring changes, and it is important that we are ready for these changes for both its citizens and its businesses. After years of austerity, it is heartening to see Budget 2021, the largest investment in the history of the state, making preparation for all its scenarios. It might have surprised people, but it is the right thing to do. But we need to make sure we can face the challenges of COVID and Brexit by giving people hope, hope based on realism and hope based on a plan. I'm heartened to see the massive investments in health, housing and education, because these are my priorities, and particular Minister, education for me, and I'm working with the Minister, Simon Harris, on the technological university status for Carlow in the South East. That to me can be delivered, and that to me is money well spent when we can invest in our children's future. So I want to welcome that funding, but we need to make sure that we access it as soon as possible. It's so important. Funding for local sports clubs, local community groups, accessing affordable healthcare or medical cards, fighting ways to access and pay for education, receiving help to buy a home or access social housing or affordable housing. We need to make sure that we look after everybody, that everybody can have means and ways to access what they need to do, because people need a quality of life, and we need to make sure that we give this in this budget. And now we have COVID-19 on top of us. It is important that we arm our society with the tools to live with it. We cannot afford rolling lockdowns, so I really look forward to using the time to see where we can help and what we can do. Minister, the HSE and the health, and that's a big issue for me, and I know now with COVID and there's restrictions and things, but the amount of people that are ringing my office that are waiting on operations, whether it's a hip operation, an eye operation, we need to make sure with this budget that we invested wisely and we make sure that people are not waiting 2 and 3 years for hospital appointments. We can't do that anymore. We need to make sure we deliver on that. There's 38 million that will be available to implement new measures under the Sharing the Vision, our national mental health strategy, because it is a massive spend in the health, but it is important that we don't forget our mental health. That's another key area for me with this pandemic. Again, it's accessing the services. It's making sure that the money is delivered and filtered down where it's needed, and that we make sure our most vulnerable, our people that are suffering, are getting these services. And that is something, now I know I have spoken to Minister Mary Butler on the mental health, and I know she is committed, and I do firmly believe that. But when it comes to housing, there's a 3.3 billion spend in housing, which is a huge budget. While I welcome that, we also have the extension of the Help to Buy scheme, which was enhanced, was the 30,000 in this budget. What I am concerned about is the reports I've received regarding the scheme. I was contacted just last month by a home buyer who was approved in principle for a mortgage of a property in Carlow, which had been advertised at a price close to 300,000 in July. When that home buyer went about finalising the process and buying the home in question, they were told the price had gone up. By how much? 30,000. That can't happen. And that's things that we need to watch. We can't be saying that we have these, and which we all welcome and which I welcomed, but we have to make sure that the people and the families on the ground get what they deserve, get that 30,000 that they should be getting, and that's what we need to make sure we do. I'm always very vocal on local authorities, and particularly for Carlow Local Authority, a huge issue for me there. For years, capital funding has always been underfunded. It has always been underfunded by the government, and it's a huge issue for me that we're always struggling, and there's always huge cutbacks in Carlow County Council in particular, when the staff and everyone is doing their best. We need to deliver now on funding, because the services now in particular, with all the services that have been cut, it's even harder to get in funding, even though I know with the rates and the commercial rates has been extended till December, and I want to welcome the 9 months on that, but that's not good enough. Local authorities, and I can only fight for my own, it needs extra capital funding. I also have a huge issue with the threshold to qualify to apply to go on the local authority housing list. That needs to be addressed. There's people there becoming homeless because they don't qualify to go on the local authority housing list. They can't afford a home and yet they can't go on the housing list. That's unacceptable. So we need to make sure that when we are investing this 3.3 billion, that is put in the right place. Again, we have a big project coming, the URDF. I've put in for that. Hopefully we'll get the funding for that. It's something I'll fight hard for. There's 65 million to facilitate the energy efficient improvement to social housing homes, and there's another 60 million to adopt the homes up to 10,700 older people and people with disabilities. I want to welcome this scheme, but again, these people are vulnerable. We need to make sure that this work is carried out as quick as possible, because elderly people now with the winters, I feel the criteria sometimes isn't right. I think it needs to be looked at. I think they need to get it quicker. Sometimes it could take months for the occupational therapist to go out through no fault of their own because of COVID. So we need to change that criteria and we need to look at it. Broadband, a huge issue for me again. We are saying to people, work from home, work from home. We're level 5, but we really need to have a proper broadband in every area. In my own, Carlow, Tullow, Bagnallstown, all of Carlow. We need to make sure that that is there, and it's not. And the amount of people that have rang me about that are really upset. You know, like we've got 2 brilliant colleges in Carlow. We've Carlow IT and St Pat's College. And students are working from at home and doing their college courses from at home. And the broadband is very bad. So we need to invest in that. I do want to welcome the fact that we have, given the €5 increase in the living alone allowance, which is not till January, and I know the Christmas bonus is there, the double bonus. I want to welcome that. That's early in December. But for me, a budget is a budget, and unless the most vulnerable in our society, the people that need it most, can get what they deserve from this budget, that can access the funding they need, whether it's through a social welfare payment, whether it's through a carers payment, that they're not fighting, whatever payment they deserve, that they get it. And we make sure we give them as much as we can, because your quality of life is so much. And when you're just struggling every week, we have so many people now, through no fault of their own, not working with COVID, and so many shops closed. People are in a different place, that we need to make sure we look after them. We need to make sure that they have a proper Christmas. Like Santa is coming in December. We have to make sure that our children, the children of Ireland, get a proper Christmas, and that we do our best to secure the best we can. Thank you, Minister.